Hello and welcome to Game Day from the UK, another My UK live streaming show. Tonight previewing the game against the Atlanta Hawks. I'm joined by two of the three of our stream team. Danny is missing tonight with family duties, but I've still got my other two guys here. John Jablonka, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks.
Good stuff. And Sam Aquara just made it in the nick of time before we went live.
Right in time. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How about you?
Good. Yes, I'm good. I'm very well. Things are wonderful and rosy again in the land of Heat Nation. 3-game win streak now after beating the Spurs by another blowout win, 20-point win against the Spurs. That's the second 20 or more than 20 win that we've had in a row. So it's all looking good again, guys. As we said, the streaky Heat are back. But big takeaways. I've got a few takeaways from the last game out against San Antonio. It seemed like a bit of a momentum shifter for me because we're never sort of sure what this Heat team is. You know, one week we're brilliant, one week we look very average. I think that after that game in the win against, who did we play before San Antonio that we blew out? Houston, when Bam, went to town. No, I'm not thinking of the Houston game. Who am I thinking of that we beat on the buzzer? The Nets, sorry. Then we went and beat, that buzzer beating win against Bam, then the big win against Houston, then the big win against the Spurs. It seems like there's been a bit of a momentum shift, and this team now suddenly has a bit of belief with them. And as we run up with this sort of very quick sort of turnaround now of playing a bunch of teams in and around us, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about this team again. Sam, before I sort of go into some of my key takeaways, what were yours, mate, from the game against San Antonio? What stood out for you?
The one thing that stood out for me and probably would have stood out for everyone else is just Tyler Hero. I think he made like 5 out of 6 threes, and he seemed to have found his rhythm in that last game. And coincidentally, it's just off the back of those reports that came out that we discussed in our last live show. So yeah, I'm glad that he put out that show to like kind of dispel the doubters. So yeah, I was pleased with that. And it was a good shooting night. I think we shot like 40% from 3, and that's even considering the fact that the usual suspects, so the people we'd expect to have good shooting games, didn't really do that well. So I think Duncan Robinson was like 2 for 7, and Kendrick Nunn was probably like 1 for 4 or 1 for 5. But we got good shooting from Goran Dragic. We got good shooting from Tyler Hero. I think 5 of 6, as I said earlier. And KZ gave us 1 for 2 for 3, and then he missed all his other shots. But yeah, that really stood out. And this team, if we can keep our shooting really good, so like 40s, high 30s, and play the level of defense that we normally do, then there's no stopping us, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Tyler because he was top of my notes. Yeah, 14 of his 22 points came in the fourth quarter. Mr. Fourth Quarter, as he's got the reputation to be. But John, I echo what Sam just said there about it was like there was a bit of criticism, bit of heat being thrown his way about his celebrity lifestyle and so on. And he came out with 22 points in just 25 minutes. So it does, again, you feel like he's got this in you, isn't it? Don't you? That you feel like if he's put under the spot, put under a bit of pressure, he can respond.
Yeah, definitely. He showed out last playoffs as well, and I think everyone overreacts when it comes to Tyler because he's a normal second year player. He will always have this sophomore slump, but because we're contenders, the pressure is more on him to step up, especially because we didn't bring any other guards apart from Bradley, and now Depot's out as well, so he has to have more shots. But you can't really expect that from a sophomore. But yeah, he's been doing well, even like all the critics were against him.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. I mean, we're perhaps a little bit guilty of putting too much pressure on him. I think that the expectations were there after we saw, what he can do. The fact that we know what his strengths are. We probably know what his weaknesses are. But when we saw how he could perform on the biggest stage, against the Lakers, for example, in the finals, he had some incredible games in the bubble, and I think that. He became an instant fans' favourite. We do love him. We know what he can produce, and he's there for the big moments. And people like that. People like young players, they like potential players, but people like players that take on the big moments, that show that sort of arrogance and that sort of confidence that he has done and did many times. I think he's maybe hasn't helped him the fact that there's been no fans really. Well, not until recently. There's been no fans playing because he does thrive off that energy. We've covered this before, but John, you're absolutely right. that it is the sophomore slump perhaps, and I don't think we should read too much into it because that you look at all the best players down the road, they're not doing those sort of numbers, and they're not becoming the complete article in their second year. So I think that everybody's just needs to be just let Tyler develop, let him do his thing, and he can remind us, and he will remind us regularly what he can produce. So good for him, and let's see that he should get this sort of extended run. Hopefully, right now, as we know how long Oladipo's out for. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Tyler first. Another one that big highlight for me again was Bam Adebayo. Once again, after his his buzzer beating winner, it seems like there's this little click that might have just gone in here, because suddenly last game, it seemed like everything he was doing was aggressive. He basically said, "Fuck finger rolls." I'm not doing layups. Everything's going to be slammed down, and especially in that first quarter, I thought he was just unreal. Just nobody could come close to him. And this is what we mean when he gets downhill, when he shows that aggression. Sam, there's no stopping him, is there? Nobody's stopping him.
Absolutely not. I saw a take on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, where someone said, I can't remember who exactly it was, but they said most people liken Bam Adebayo to Kevin Garnett, but instead he thinks of him more of LeBron James. And I sat back and I thought, and I was like, yeah, he does have a point, because there's literally no stopping Bam when he's in stride, when he's playing his defense to his usual defense at star level, and he's hitting those mid-range, he's going to the basket. You can't really stop him, and that's what we want to see from Bam on a consistent basis. I mean, there are games earlier in the season where we saw him pull that out, and now he's starting to do this in this 2-3 game stretch. So we just want to see that consistently, and I think at this point the Heat kind of expect it from him, the fan base, especially considering the fact that his max contract kicks in next season. So we definitely need to see that on a consistent basis from him.
Yeah, do you agree with that, John? Do you think that the best thing that probably could have happened to him, we know we've heard him say it several times about his aggression when we lose games, but do you think the best thing perhaps was that Jimmy Butler sort of, in air quotes, called him out? It wasn't meant in any way, detrimental to him. It was just that maybe he needed that public out, if you like, to say, come on, because we know what you can do. Do you think so he seems to have responded in exactly the right way, hasn't he?
Yeah, I actually loved what Jimmy did. That's what he means when he keeps people accountable. He doesn't care if it's in public or if he'll call you out. And we preach about Heat culture, and this is what Heat culture is. You get called out and you don't even take it personally. I remember it was like in Minnesota or something. If he called anyone out, they would take it the wrong way, and he would get called cancer and toxic. But here they just love it when he does that.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, it's a great shout. As we said, everybody in that locker room is on his page, and that's what I mean. If you're not going to be, if he sees that there's a slip, he'll call you out, and everybody will respond to it. This is what I love about this team. This is what I love about Jimmy Butler. Before we finish,
just to add to that, I don't know if any of you listened to the Long Shot podcast, or Duncan Robinson's podcast.
I haven't listened to the latest one. No.
Oh no, I'll talk about last week when he had Bam Adebayo on it.
No, I haven't.
And he was talking about his journey through Kentucky, and while he was talking about it, one thing that came to my mind is sometimes Bam needs to be reminded that he is that guy. Because when he was in Kentucky, he got the promise from John Calipari that he'll make the NBA, but for the Kentucky team to strive, he needs to take a step back, just do what he needs to do to get the team to where they need to be. And coming into the draft, everyone was surprised that he had a mid-range and he could shoot to an extensive level. So I feel like some to be reminded that he is that guy. This isn't Kentucky anymore. The team's not gonna just explode based on your little input. We actually need him to be that guy, and I feel that's what Jimmy did, and just reminded him, and he was like, oh yeah, that's me. Let me get this done.
Yeah, and 100%. And I think that, as I said, since that moment, he's been brilliant. And I thought that he really controlled that game. He set the tone. And the good thing about it is because he set the tone so early, and that game became, from halftime onwards, when we exploded, we outscored the Spurs 56-34 in that second half. And what that did, based on the back of what Bam did, it meant that he could rest. He only played 30 minutes, I think, maybe 31 minutes. and that's huge this time of year. So yeah, good stuff. We want to see more of the same. Last thing on the Spurs before we come on to the Hawks game tonight. Goran Dragic, 19 minutes played, 9 points. Is this the sort of thing now, John, that we're going to see from Goran? Just a handful of minutes, maybe that 20-minute mark. I know he came back from a little injury, but 20-minute mark, yeah, just to produce a dozen or so points. If we can get that out of him, we're golden.
Yeah, that's so close to the playoffs and so close to, like, in case of the play-in, we need him. We need to have him like in full shape, 100%. So if you don't really need to play big minutes against the Spurs because we're winning, then yeah, he should just sit and give none all the reps.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sam, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think at this point we really need to be preserving him because obviously last year we had that long break between when Rudy Gobert shut down the NBA and when the bubble kicked in. So he was pretty much primed to go once the playoffs started. So from now on, I think we should just limit his minutes as much as possible because we really do need him to be the player he was for us in the last playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, it's good. It's good stuff. I feel like, as I said, I feel like something's clicked with this team now. As we run this little stretch, I feel confident. I feel like confident in this team now, and it's not something that I've been saying a lot this season so far. So let's come on to tonight's game against the Atlanta Hawks. It's going to be a good one, but we've probably caught them at the right time because of injuries. Before we come into it, let's just go through the usual stats. So the Hawks are 32 and 27, just a game back for his Miami on 31 and 28. Hawks now 5th in the East. Heat are 7th in the East. They are 16 and 11 at home, which is impressive. That's good. Heat are 14 and 15 away. They're on a 7 and 3 run in the last 10. Miami are 6 and 4 now. The Heat are favoured in the bookies by 5.5 points on the spread. So the Heat like this, and that is mainly down to the fact that they have a pretty brutal injury report at the moment. No Trae Young, he is out. No Cam Reddish, out. No Dunn, he's been out for a while. No Hunter, he is out. And they have game time decisions on Gallinari and Clint Capella. I think Capella is expected to play. Gallinari may be expected as well, but that's a pretty brutal injury list. Of course, Heat now have players back, including Iguodala, who missed out on the last game. So their only absentee guaranteed is obviously Oladipo. Tyler Hero is on a probable with I think a foot injury, and of course Gabe Vincent seems to be on every injury report as a probable. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, I think John, Heat have caught a bit of a break here, and I don't feel guilty in saying that because we've had horrendous injury problems this year to deal with. But this is big, the fact that they're missing Trae Young, isn't
it? Yeah, because I'm just looking at his stats and how the Hawks have been without him. He only missed 5 games so far this year. They're 3 and 2, but they beat bad teams. But looking at his stats, the offensive rating goes from 119 to 108 without him.
Wow, that's a huge drop.
Is this an early John's stats? Because I was going to bring in the jingle, but
so it looks like without him, the offense just disappears, and they need that offense because they don't play. They're 18th in defense as well.
Yeah, they're not. This is the thing, Sam. This is a good offensive team against a good defensive team, isn't it? And the fact that you take probably their biggest offensive weapon away, and that's what this would be a really, really infuriating defeat if after all the things we've just said, how this seems like that there's suddenly something that's clicked, that we seem like there's some momentum behind us. This would be really Miami Heat, wouldn't it, to now go and lose to the fucking Hawks, missing half their roster.
Funny enough, you just mentioned it. My mind was just going to the Timberwolves game, which was a game which we should have won in by all means. This team this year we lost games which we had no business losing. So I don't want to say a loss today won't surprise me, but I'm sticking to my prediction from 2 live streams ago. I feel this team is in a position now that is just steamrolling, and I don't team taking their foot off the.
Yep. Yeah, again, losing you a little bit, Sam, but hopefully, I see you coming back now. John, Clint Capella's last game, I know it was an overtime game, but 25 points, 22 rebounds. I mean, him against Bam is the key now, isn't it? Because I mean, if Capella's out tonight, this should be a third blowout in a row for Miami. But I really rate Clint Capella, and that's someone that we're going to have struggles with because against off the boards, they're a good team. I think they rank fourth in the league off offensive rebounds, which has been Miami's Achilles heel all season. That's a big matchup tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised how good Clint Capella is because I don't think people actually seen that when he was in Houston with Harden, but he's been playing like a top 5, top 6 center in this season. So he probably get his just as any big man will probably do against us. But did he play against Dwayne Dedman last time?
No, he didn't. No, that's
So
true.
I mean, this time he could have a different game with him on the court. So I don't know what his game will be like this time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that's a good point because we didn't have Dwayne to deal with that side of it last time out. I think that John Collins will always be a problem. I think that's something that maybe Trevor Ariza might be able to get hold of Sam. Again, these are the matchups that are going to be key to this game, isn't it?
Agree with John in regards to because in my opinion is a fantastic center, and like you got to think back to a couple seasons ago where the Rockets pretty much replaced Dwight Howard with Clint Capella, and he did exactly what they wanted him to do to a fantastic level. If I'm correct, he ended up getting a max contract. So yeah, he is a good player within the system he plays for, but he shouldn't be any problem for Bam.
Yeah. Just before we go through our predictions, guys, KZ looks good last time out. I know that
on
he
defense,
often does,
he looked fantastic.
Yeah, on defense, yeah. I think he always sort of when he gets his chance when Iguodala's out, and Iguodala was out, and he got solid minutes. I think 20 minutes, something like that. And yeah, I think we know what he's good at. Laterally, he's excellent. He's got quick feet. He stays in front of players. So I think that. Are we going to see a bit of him tonight, John? Do you think off of that performance, or do you think now Iguodala's back, again, he's going to be dropped down the rotation?
I think that would depend how well we'll play in a game. If it's a convincing win and we're blowing them out, then I guess we'll see him. But because it's an important game, I think we'll see more of Iguodala and Ariza.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be an interesting one. I think that this is one, it's almost must win because I think that it's detrimental to the team to lose to this team after what we've done in the recent games to then come out and lose to a really short-handed Hawks team. But let's go around the board. Sam, what's your thoughts?
Heat win. He's going to win by, it's going to be another 20-point win adding to the streak. I'm that confident and I hope they don't let me down.
Love it. John, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm saying go 3 blowouts in a row.
Love it. Okay, Danny, not here in person, but here in spirit on the chat. He's saying Heat by 15. So we've got Danny's prediction. Well done. Thanks for that, Danny. I'm going to say a win. This is the first night of a back-to-back. So I think that we would look to try and steam ahead, and then maybe we'll see some bench getting emptied maybe earlier than what we might have normally do in a standard game. So I'm going to say, and I can see that big score dwindle down. I'm going to say Heat by 7. So we've all gone around the ball with big Heat wins, but I think that maybe that will be like a Heat by 15 with about 3 or 4 minutes to go and end up being Heat by 7. It's going to be one of those, in my opinion. But let's hope so. So, yeah, we're going to carry on riding this wave. Heat by 20 against the Spurs, Heat by 23 against the Rockets. This is good stuff. As I said, we're entering an important stage now after this game, several games against teams that are in and around us. Also, one of the last games that we've got that's relatively early. Say early, it's 12:30 still. But after that, 1 o'clock for the next 7 games, and then we enter the last handful where we've got a couple of early ones when we have to grind out some difficult games against some good teams. But this is the time now. This is the time to solidify this top 6, potentially this top 4, because that's what we want. We want that 4 or 5, really. We don't want to be facing first round playing the Bucks or who knows, maybe even the Nets now, depending on what happens with their injuries. But yeah, let's carry on riding this wave. We'll go through this tonight. We'll be there as usual. Follow the incoms. And at Miami Heat UK TV. Subscribe to that, please, guys. We won't be back tomorrow. Unfortunately, I can't make tomorrow's stream. So that'll be a Monday night game, which is the second game against the Bulls. Hopefully, we'll see you all back then. Let's carry on getting these W's, guys. Let's go Heat.